Hi, so today I'm going to talk about Malleable software and how with AI and GraphQL we can take the research that's been going on for many years to the next level. So I work at the Guild on open source and other things. I also co-organize a TypeScript meetup in Poland. You can find me and reach out to me after this talk on Twitter. I'm Aleksandra Sikora, and you can check out my personal website, aleksandra.codes. So I want to cover a few topics today. I want to talk about what is malleable software. I want to talk about how to give people agency to create and change applications that they use, and how AI and GraphQL can empower that. So as you may all know, we live in the world of apps. So from the moment we wake up till we go to bed, we are surrounded by countless of applications that are designed to make our lives easier. And there are plenty of them. And we probably also use multiple applications with that do the same thing but with slightly different UI, like multiple applications to listen to music to, multiple social media applications. And in my example, I have more than one app where I track my workouts. And I even have multiple ones to track one particular type of workout. I have more than one app for the gym. And I use it depending on what I currently need. And I use some because they have better functionalities. And at this very moment, I need one particular functionality. But that's quite annoying. I have to think about it. I have to sync them. And at many, many points, I was extremely close to creating my own gym tracking application. But that would be yet another app, and the problem would be that the only person in the world that this app would be perfect for would be just me. And another example, I still can't find my favorite to-do application, even though there are so many of them. And again, I could build it myself, so could all of you, and waste weekends of our lives. But not everyone is not in this position. Not everyone has skills and resources, and what's most important, not everyone has the time to do so. And we usually at these conferences talk about how to build those applications, what tech to use, how to ship faster, how to write better code. But today I want to talk instead about the core of app design and perhaps challenge some of our existing assumptions. So my first question for you today is, how can we build software that suits everyone? How can we possibly create a, for example, to-do application that meets the needs of as many people as possible? And the answer is we can't. There's no way that one app satisfies everyone. That's why I want to talk to you today about malleable software. And even though this concept is not new, there's been research going on for many, many years, I think that conversations about it were never as relevant and as close to us as they are right now. So what do I mean by malleable? Well, in this context, it means something like a piece of software that can be repurposed, reshaped to fit users' needs, something you can change however you wish. So maybe I could only have one gym app, something that I could customize, something that could have all the functionalities I need to behave how I want it to behave, to look how I want it to, and all of that with the assumption that I don't fork it and don't change the code. So in other words, it's about empowerment, and it's about giving people agency to use software how they really want instead of giving them predefined applications. So going to the problem I mentioned before, why can't I find a perfect to-do app? Well, the root of this issue lies in generalization. We get predefined apps. We get something that the CEO or product manager envisioned, and we are limited to what they wanted, to their ideas, to who they wanted their target audience to be. And there might be some user experience research, but there are two problems with that. Firstly, that user experience research can't cover everyone. And the second problem is that it still be later generalized to majority. And also the problem is that those applications, they aim for a vast market fit. And when you think about it, this is a reasonable goal to have. Like if we build an app, we want as many people as possible to use it. But what it means for end users, like what's the app, what's the final product that we get? Well, it's just something that is okay. It's not perfect, it's just mediocre. But here's the thing, like we inherently desire control, and we desire control especially over our personal environments. That gives us satisfaction from work. It also gives us space for creativity because we don't have to fight with our tools. And we've been trying to bend and shape our digital tools for quite some time. Who here hasn't added like one browser extension or two to make their like digital experience just a little bit more comfortable? Like here's an example of a browser extension that you can use to modify styles on a website. And now we also have Arc browser that takes it to the next level because it adds those customizations as a first-class citizen in the browser. It's seamlessly integrated, it's easy to use, and we can argue here on like how beneficial that actually is. Like there are people who love this feature, there are people who notice that it's kind of going behind the original designer's plans and it's kind of like operating on a black box. But one thing is for sure, like we are moving towards more flexibility, and we now have tools that allow us to move on from those fixed, predefined applications. And maybe like something that we see with our browser, this need for customization has been finally seen. But the problem is that it's still magical. Like we still have a lot of tools for experts. So going back to the example of Arc browser, like it's great, but some of its features are still gated by users' ability to write JavaScript and CSS, or at least to understanding how like the HTML underneath works. And there's this huge gap between technical versus non-technical users in terms of tailoring their experiences. But maybe it doesn't have to be that way. Here's an example from a paper. If you can't see anything, then don't worry. It's a screenshot from a paper. It wasn't very, very good in the first place. This is from a paper from 30 years ago. The paper is about tailoring applications. Basically, this is an application that you can customize with buttons. And we also have HyperCard, like we used to have, which also like tried to solve this problem of malleable software, of like how users, like end users, can customize software. But now we have AI, and now we have LLMs, and here I want to start talking about how we can use LLMs to take these malleable ideas to the next level. So what does AI mean for software? Like we had, usually we had two kinds of conversations about AI. The first one is how it's going to affect our professions. Like, are we going to lose our jobs? Or the second kind of conversation is how can we leverage AI? How can we use ChatGPT or Copilot to ship faster, to ship more code, to build more products? We even have like AI-first editors like Cursor, and there are more and more developer productivity tools every day. But this digital world should be for everyone. And maybe we should try to like bridge this gap between technical and non-technical users instead of making bigger by building more tools for experts. And I think that everyone can be creative. So my question now is, how can we empower every individual to not just consume, but to create and to have a say in their experiences? And well, I think that with AI, the boundaries of what's possible are expanding. Like non-technical end users can now do way more. They are not limited by their lack of coding knowledge. They can design, build, they can translate their ideas into products. And all of that by using AI. And as Andre perfectly put it, the hottest new programming language is English. So people can now use English or another spoken language to do things that were previously only possible by knowing programming languages. And we have a lot of examples of that. Like Vercel recently, I think last week, released a project, V0, where you can like type a prompt and it generates UI. And it's really nice. It's perfect. It works really nice. But the problem is that it still targets developers. Like you get code that you can use in your project. And maybe we could have something like that, but for end users in those end products. And of course, there will be a lot of challenges in terms of development and like actually implementing that. But I will also show you later that maybe it's not that difficult. Here's a small prototype from oil agency. So basically, they have a really nice blog post. I really recommend checking it out. It's on Malleable web. Basically, you can type a prompt. Yeah, you see that it's quite amusing, and it's just a prototype. There's no product that's been made, but well, I don't see a reason why it can be a project. Like I think that we're going to see tools like that in the future in many places. So anyway, the bottom line here is that with AI, people can actually have agency and they can craft products and translate their visions into reality. But okay, so this is just UI. Like it might be exciting, it might look nice, but I would like to take this further. Like why should we only be limited by some black box CSS changes? We are certainly past some kind of milestone, and we've gotten better at changing how websites look like, how we've gotten better at customizing them. But there's so much more that we can do. So what if we think about software as playgrounds? Something we can reshape, repurpose, redevelop. What if we can go away from consuming? And we already have tools that do more than just UI. Here's an example of Coda, where you can create your own workspaces and workflows. Something that probably you are all familiar with, Notion. Again, you can create custom workspaces and automations. You can do a lot of things there. Or Potluck, something that is less known but extremely exciting. They aim to make it easy to build personal tools based on dynamic documents. And all of those tools, there are more of them. I just listed 3 on those slides. Like all of them, they don't just change looks. They let users play with like the main information. Like they let users make their own setups, create their own ways of doing things. And I particularly like this quote from Potluck announcement blog post. They are saying that they want a world where people are in control of their computing experiences, and that people should be able to teach their computers the meaning behind their data and choose how the data gets transformed and displayed. So rather than building or like designing specific use flows for one of use cases, these tools focus on building blocks, on like software Legos. And what they do, in a summary, they move applications from consuming and commanding to authoring, and that's quite an exciting change. But what if I wanted the same experience like everywhere else? Like this is just one set of tools. And now how can we combine this idea of playgrounds with what I was talking about, like with AI? Here's one example when someone wanted to get some information and export it to a file, and so they scraped a website. And I don't see a reason why we can't make it easier for people to do things with the data. And here's one example. This is Wildcard. This is a browser extension. It's been there for a while. It shows like a simplified view of the data as a table view. You can directly manipulate the data. You can sort, filter content. You can add annotations. And you can even use like spreadsheet style formulas to like do something with the data. It's kind of limited in terms of where you can use it. It also has some assumptions about the data on the browser. but it did solve a need that people had for actually like being in control of the data they have on their websites. So, so we talked about LLMs, about playgrounds, about going beyond UI changes. So there's one thing left here, the API layer. So for apps that users can easily change, and for apps that allow for user-driven customizations, not knowing how data works is a big problem. So we need something that is precise, something that is flexible in terms of handling data. And this is where GraphQL comes into the picture with a few strengths. Like we have the schema that has all the information about the data, about the relationships between objects and the shapes of those objects. And like when you have the schema, you can see how the data is organized and what actions you can take. And if you give it to a language model, it can generate queries or mutation or subscriptions that work for that schema. And we can also take it further. We can train models based on our schemas. So, well, you could say that that would be possible with other API solutions too, as long as we have a spec. But what's cool about GraphQL is that it gives you flexibility in terms of like forming the requests. There are no predefined endpoints. You can ask about as much or as little as you need. And this is especially useful for those customizable applications. Here's a small demo. I built a graphical plugin that basically you can type a prompt in English and it generates a query. And that works really, really well. So in short, I think that like combining GraphQL and AI can really move Malleable research forward. And I do believe that GraphQL can be this thing that can get us from predefined applications with predefined APIs and resources to custom tools with that user can create and that work on different sets of our data. So now you probably wonder, like from a developer perspective, how to implement something like this. And I did too. Like I was wondering, okay, so like if I write an application that is supposed to be malleable, like how would the framework look like? So I started thinking about it in terms of like, okay, maybe this can be a spectrum. Like it doesn't have to be black or white. Like it doesn't have to be fully malleable or not. Maybe there can be parts of those applications that are malleable. Look at this example. Like this is a screenshot from Airbnb. So let's say I do want to empower users to like customize applications that I build, but maybe I still want to have some control over the application. So maybe I only want them to customize this filter at the top, or like the data that is displayed like below the pictures of properties. So I was thinking about something like, okay, what if we can have this V0 from Vercel, the tool where you type a prompt and you get UI, but for end users in real time? And yeah, so I paired with Daniel Rowe, he's lead of Next framework, and we started thinking like, okay, so let's create a framework or let's create something that actually lets us build malleable applications. And we came up with this API that will basically have those malleables, and like a malleable can be like anything. It can be a GraphQL query or it can be a template. We decided for this project or for this demo, we decided to use Vue, so we have like on the slide, you can see a Vue template. So basically, there are different kinds of malleables, and I think I have a diagram here. So basically, when something in the app changes, like when user requests a different form of the application, when they want to customize some parts of the application, we send a request to the language model along with all the malleables that we have in our code base, and then we have a new app state. So here's a very, very short demo. It doesn't look as nice as V0. It was built relatively quickly. But like what they do right now, I type a prompt, and I have access to all the data, all the GraphQL data that I have in this application, and I can ask to like give me some sets of this, like a set of this data in a certain format. It's even integrated with Tailwind, so it can like you can style it however you want. You can type like, give me only names, but as a list that has, I don't know, pink background. So this was just a sneak peek. So I guess if you want to learn more about this project, or if you want to like follow up on that, you can follow me on Twitter or on GitHub, or you can reach out to me like after this talk if you're interested in like collaborating on that. And yeah, so moving on. I also want to mention some related work that's been done on Malleable software, because I find it quite interesting. So firstly, there is something like Malleable Systems Collective. This is a group of people that are passionate about Malleable software. On their website, you can find a lot of resources like projects, research papers, or articles, like whatever you wish, and everything is related to Malleable software. And I also had this problem the other day. Like I wanted to share a playlist with someone, but I use Spotify, and the other person only uses like Apple Music and YouTube. And well, that was quite annoying. Like I could have yet another person like using yet another application, and I would like this problem to be solved. So I also wanted to show you something like Solid. So this is a specification that that kind of assumes that there are data pods and they are decentralized. So basically, what they do, they are moving towards more ownership, and they are moving away from having like one data pod for millions of users like Facebook or Twitter, but into having like single data pods per user. Like it can be one, it can be more than one, but basically it would possibly solve my problem of sharing a playlist if I had the access to the underlying data. Oh, there's also something like WebStraits. It's a web server where the pages are collaboratively editable, and what it means is that all the modifications to DOM are synchronized, and they're synchronized on the server. So like all the clients that are currently visiting the same web page, they will get the updates in real time. And I particularly like how they use the word substrate, and like the WebStrate stands for Web plus Substrate. And I think this was quite an interesting idea of creating this space on the internet when users can create custom things. There's also something called Dynamic Land. This is just a fun fact that it exists. So this is a research group, and they invented like a new medium where people can like work together, and they can literally use their hands to create programs. They can like brainstorm together. They can like modify those programs. They literally use pieces of paper. This is how it looks in practice. Basically, you can stack those pieces of paper to create different programs, and you can like move them around literally to create different programs. So that's quite cool. So there are, of course, more. I really encourage you to visit this Malleable Software Collective website. And for now, let's wrap this up. So the whole idea behind Malleable software and like the research that's been done on this topic, it talks about moving like completely away from applications. But I think that we can take it slowly, and as a start, we can just make better applications. We can make more customizable applications, more malleable applications, and maybe we can also make it possible to combine those apps and use them together. So imagine a world where like every app is like a clay in your hands, and every app is ready to be molded to fit your unique needs. So like with that, there will be like no more settling for good enough, And I believe that with AI and GraphQL and other technologies, this is way, way closer to us than ever before. So thank you. By the way, if you scan this QR code, you will find like a lot of resources that I went through to prepare this talk.